getting this out for you. Hi, I'm Jen. Welcome back to Seeing Circle. We're making cut applesauce. I'm getting a big one.
So we are a little late in the game getting our apples preserved this year. Partly because we got apples late in the game. But nevertheless, Jed, hold on. This marks a momentous occasion because I'm going to can something without calling my mom first. This is a new thing. I've never canned something without calling my mom first, I don't think. So I have 2 boxes of apples that have been sitting on my counter for at least a week. I don't even remember what kind they are, but I have one Granny Smith and one of these pinkish greenish ones. My plan is to do pie filling with the Granny Smith and sauce the pink ones. Since they've been sitting on my counter for a week, at least a third of them have already been eaten. So I'm going to weigh out what I have left as well as I can. No, you are not going to keep taking bites out of different apples. You already started one, that is your apple. Because what I do want to know is how much applesauce I get per pound of apples so that I can make better plans for next year. Alright, we're going to start with sauce.
An apple cutter.
We're going to use this big Dutch oven to cook our applesauce. And then this is the canner that was just given to me over Thanksgiving. And so that is what we'll use to do the water bath and actually can our applesauce. Thanks, baby.
Big.
We're putting all the peels and cores into this big pickle jar to turn into apple cider vinegar. I haven't done that one before, so we're hoping that it works. So let's go out. We're just gonna do 5 pounds at a time, okay? So that we can keep track of how much we're doing. That's 5. Okay, this is 10 pounds of apples. I'm gonna just put it on the stove and add about a cup of water just to make sure it doesn't scorch. Okay, while the applesauce is cooking down, we're gonna start cutting up apples for our pie filling. So my family calls this pie filling, but honestly, I don't think they very often use it for pies. It more often got used in crisps or just on top of pancakes. And I'm planning to use some of it in a cake for Christmas. But it really is very versatile. You know, it can go
Put something on it.
inside a coffee cake. It can go in muffins. So all we're doing is slicing. We're peeling and slicing the apples, and then we're just going to can them with some cinnamon sugar. And the canning process will cook the apples, and they'll be ready to go. No, time for an outside break. Yeah, you can drum, but we're just going to go outside. Get your boots on. Let's get outside. Give these apples a quick stir to make sure that they're all cooking evenly and not sticking or scorching. Oh, sweet semi-silence. One of the things I need to get better at is actually using what I can. I have a few jars left over from last year, and I don't think I've ever, like I just did a few, but it wasn't enough to rely on it really. And so I just forgot they were back there. This year, I want to actually use what we preserve because it's definitely a waste if it's not getting used. Next step here is I'm actually going to just slice them all in half because that's going to make them easier to mix up. Probably should have done that before I put them in here, but you know. Okay, true to form, I'm gonna do sugar until it tastes good. Start with a cup here. Seems like a lot, but this is 10 pounds of apples, so. Did you go poop, sweetheart? You're done peeing? Oh, scheiße! Okay. Okay. Shoot. Okay, well, this is all the cinnamon that I have left. It's, you know, maybe a couple tablespoons, so we might have to go get some more before we can finish this. Okay, we are working our way up to 2 cups of sugar now. And about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. I think this is going to be a good amount. You see that syrup starting down at the bottom? You probably don't. There it is. Slice for Riley. Is it good? Are they sweet enough? So obviously Granny Smiths are not very sweet on their own, so if you were doing a different type of apple, you might not need as much sugar. But we did 10 pounds of Granny Smith, 2 cups of sugar, I almost said 2 pounds, that would be a lot, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and I think it's a pretty good flavor here. Alright, this is almost cooked down as far as I want it, not quite, but I need to make lunch, so I'm just going to turn it off and cover it and let it finish doing its thing with the burner off, and it'll be fine. Okay, errands have been run and kids are napping, so it is time to get back to this. I want to do the applesauce in the pint jars because that way I can get it out for, you know, a meal, and I don't have to then eat the whole quart. But I will do the pie filling in the quart jars for the most part, because that's about how much you need to make a pie. Okay, our apples are nice and mushy, but they aren't really quite sauced yet, so we're just gonna pop them in the food processor real quick. I might use the blender if people weren't sleeping, but the food processor is just a little bit quieter. When I was a kid, my mom had what we affectionately referred to as the apple squisher, and it took the cooked apples and you just cranked it, kind of like a mill, right? And it went through this like cone-shaped sieve, I guess, and squished all the peels and cores and everything out one side, and perfectly smooth applesauce came out the other. But I do not have an apple squisher, so this is how we do it. Definitely gonna have to mop after today. Every time I take a step. All that apple juice. All right, 10 pounds of apples turns into 6.5 pints of applesauce. Now we wipe down the rims of these jars so nothing gets in the way of them sealing. The rings only need to be on there to hold the lids while the jars process, while they seal. You can take the rings off once they come out of the canner. Now this is just going into the canner, which is basically just a big pot of water, because these don't need to be pressure canned. And they're just gonna sit here for 20 minutes. Okay, before I start the pie filling, things I forgot to say. 1, you don't want to start your timer until it is at a boil. 2, if you are putting hot food into the jars, you want to make sure that the jars are warm and not cold, so that the temperature change doesn't crack the glass. And so, like, if I had these jars out in my garage where it's frigid, I would definitely have warmed them up before I put anything in them. But since my applesauce had been sitting out and wasn't hot, and the jars were inside, so they were fairly warm, I'm not super worried about it, but I probably should have been. So there's that. Okay, pie filling. It's gonna be nice and soupy. Where did I put my scooper? I want to make sure that we get some of those juices into every jar, that I don't just scoop off the top. Now these apples have not been cooked, and so they are going to cook down in the jar. So we want to make sure that they are nice and full. Otherwise it will all cook down and we won't have much. I'm gonna grab my peanut butter stomper. Okay, so you see how this one has juices almost up to the top, and this one just has the juice down at the bottom? That's what I'm saying about making sure that they have equal syrupy juiciness. Okay, same wipe down for these guys. And lids. This time we got 4 quarts and 1 pint out of the same 10 pounds of apples. Okay, next is our jar of vinegar scraps. We're gonna fill it up with sugar water. Gonna do a tablespoon of sugar per cup of water, and then that's gonna sit for 2 to 4 weeks. And we'll drain the apples out, keep the liquid, let that sit for another 2 to 4 weeks, and at that point it should be vinegar. I just want to make sure that the sugar is dissolved. It doesn't end up sitting at the bottom forever. And we're out. I think that this contraption, as handy as it is not great for my kitchen because now I have to move these off of this onto something else. And so I think I'm just gonna stick with the good old jar lifter for the next batch. Okay, third apple project for the day. I'm gonna dry some of these. I had 6.5 pounds left of these pinker ones, the sweeter ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry most of these, I think. I'm gonna do 135 degrees. And I'm gonna have to double check the time. I'll probably just check them at bedtime and see how they're doing. It's like 1:30 now. So that'll give me, 7 or 8 hours in the dryer. Back over to this side. That 6.5 pounds was a little bit too much to fit in here. So we had some left over that we ate, and now we've ate some more of them, but I did let them go for about 7 hours. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I have a whole sticky mess to clean up, and I am going to let you all get on with your life while I get on with that. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do, because I'm hoping to do some videos using the canned pie filling in a few different ways. I'm gonna play with it a little bit, and I don't want you to miss out on that. I need to get off my feet.